G'day folks, the Aussie Traveler here. Well, hasn't it been awesome the last few weeks since we last spoke? I do apologise for that because I'm waiting for more information to happen. For all you haters out there, look, things have really turned, hasn't it? We can now start to prepare, especially us Australians, we can start to prepare to leave Australia as international tourism and flights is about to begin. But unfortunately, Indonesia isn't on that list just yet. There's some reasoning for it, and I have spoke to people both in Indonesia and here in Australia. So, when will us Australians be able to go to Indonesia on a tourist visa? Everyone's saying March, but is it going to be March? Let's have a look. First of all, thanks very much for supporting the show so far, and thank you very, very much for your comments. I really do appreciate it. Even those ones that aren't quite, let's say, friendly. Let's just say that. But I do enjoy your comments and your tips as well. Thank you for some of those. Some people are living there in Indonesia and in Bali, and they send me lots of good tips. And then I hear about other ones where things aren't quite right. So I have to marry up which ones are true and which ones are not. But, you know, I have to look at documentation. And sometimes that might not be the information that you guys are getting. So just bear that in mind. Take my information as you will, okay? Do your own investigations. Have a look at it yourself. Talk to government agencies. Have a look at government websites. Try not and avoid, social medias and, information coming along those lines. Have a look at it more deeply. And sometimes when you're working with governments, they're in the future a little bit, like they might be a couple of months ahead. So the information that we're getting on Australia leaving, going into Indonesia is already like a month ahead already. So they're already starting to tell us that it looks like end of November, early December, that Australia will have the permission to start to holiday on the holiday visa into Indonesia. Not being released at the moment, through the medias, but it is starting to be written up in documentation that is going to happen. Politicians are talking. So this is good news for Australia. If you're wanting to go to Indonesia and you're planning on going to Indonesia, it looks like it is going to happen before the end of the year. We marry that up with flights from airline companies are starting to set that up as well. And we talk to tourism companies and the tourist associations, and they're starting to tell us the same things as well. So looking at the three majors, it looks like it is going to go ahead as far as tourism out of Australia into Indonesia. And this is good news for us. For the rest of the world, let's have a look. Someone has written in and they have noticed my bird at the back of me here that I put up there a couple of shows ago. And yes, you are correct. It is an Australian kookaburra. And nicely noticed. But that's what it is. It is a kookaburra, an Australian kookaburra. Right. So stage one we know is complete. Those invited countries, I think it's 6, were allowed to come into Indonesia, and they're allowed to come in on that tourist visa. And yes, you are allowed to bring in children. Someone keeps saying you're not allowed to bring children into Indonesia at the moment. Well, you can. Of course you can bring your children. There's no problems there. There's no age limit. So please, don't send me hate mail on that one. You are allowed to bring in children into Indonesia. Okay. So I think there's already been other countries added to their list that can come into Indonesia. And I think some of those countries is quite, well known now. You can Google these countries. It's not a secret. So top of my head, countries like New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, I think we're looking at China, Japan, India. I think India's in there, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Poland, Hungary. Please don't get at me if I've left some countries behind. Norway's another one. South Korea. These countries have that corridor system being set up, and these are countries that the Indonesian government has let into the country because of their COVID positions in their country and their vaccination rates. So these are why those countries have been invited into Indonesia in this stage 1, if you like. Why hasn't Australia been put in there yet? Well, I still can't get an answer from either Indonesia or Australia. I've been in touch with the Premier's office there, and they are not saying much. The same office in Indonesia, or the equivalent, again, are not saying much. But we're hearing that Australia will be allowed to enter into Indonesia by the end of November or early December. But they're not announcing that yet. We don't know why. We know that the airline companies secretly have their plans to fly from Australia, both I know Sydney and Brisbane, to fly into Indonesia. Denpasar is one of those locations, is on the cards. We know that they have their flight plans, and we also know that they have their allocations for those planes. We know that. But nothing has been released, and we don't know why. And I'm sorry, I don't know why. I'm puzzled. I speak to the right people in the ministries, and they're not giving me an answer yet. But yet, here in Australia, it is starting to be broadcasted on national television, and radio stations are all saying by the end of, come December, Christmas time, we'll be allowed to fly into Indonesia. But it hasn't been officially mentioned yet in any sort of documentation. So I dare not quote on that. But in hearsay, both on the television and on radio, they're saying that Australians will be able to holiday or tourist visa into Indonesia for Christmas. So there it is. I'm not 100% sure, and I don't like mentioning it when I haven't got the proof, but they are saying that is going to happen. But I must also say that when I asked that exact question to the ministry here in Australia, both in the tourism and the Premier's office, they have said, we cannot deny that. That's a biggie. Normally they would say, nah, not going to happen, Russ, not going to happen. But what they're saying to me at the moment is, we can't comment. So there is something definitely going on in the background there between the two countries. They are talking. What they're talking about or what they're trying to organise, look, not 100% sure. But it is happening. Look, on another good positive note, I have many friends over there in Indonesia. They all live over there, both Australians, Americans. They're all over there, all my friends, and they've lived there during the pandemic. Yes, they are getting vaccinated. Don't know where you're hearing that from. Yes, they are being able to go shopping. Shopping centres are open. No problems there. They are noticing, and these are people that live there and ride up and down these streets all day and every day, they're noticing that the little markets, the little shops, are starting to open again. Every time they drive down these streets, they're opening again. Now, October 14th was the official opening date for international travel into Indonesia. That's widely documented. But they haven't had a lot of flights come in. Why is that? A chap that I've been speaking to on WhatsApp has been saying, oh, well, they've got no bookings. Well, you got to understand that it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of, preparation to get a heavy aircraft to come out of a country and then fly into another country. It's major work. We've got insurance purposes. They've got to be able to refuel the plane. They've got to be able to staff the plane. They've got to also, when they land, they've got to be able to have the plane cleaned. They've got to have it, like I said, refueled. It's got to be, checked over. All those systems need to be in place. Plus, there's other bits and pieces as well. As a tourist, the insurances weren't quite right, but they are now. Getting a taxi from, the airport to your destination wasn't 100% set up. The protocols and things were in place, but they weren't in practice. Other things like, local shops and things, they were not open, but now they're all starting to open. And I heard, because I called the international Hoteliers Association, or Motels Association there in Indonesia, and they said that bookings were very low in October. But in November, they can already see the graph lifting, and they can see that hotels and motels, the ones that are open, are starting to take bookings. And getting hold of those online booking agencies too is a little bit difficult, but I am starting to get a response from them saying yes, they can see that people are looking at accommodation in Indonesia, and they can see how many people are looking at pricings and looking at locations in Indonesia at the moment on those sites. I don't want to name the sites because, you know, I don't want to, but that's happening. The other thing is insurance companies. They're saying that they're getting lots and lots of inquiries about insurances. That's a good one. Kind of need that. And what was the other big one that was mentioned to me the other day? Oh yes, the supermarkets there in Indonesia are starting to fill their shelves with Western foods more and more. Where, you know, like last month there wasn't so much Western foods there in the supermarkets, but one of my closest friends over there has said, look, he's noticed now that those Western foods are starting to be put back into the shelves. So the supermarkets are starting to get prepared for Westerners to come into Indonesia, and that's another positive sign. So there's things turning around slowly in the background, but at the moment, it's not hitting the medias at the moment saying everything is full, everything is packing out, everything is sold out. That's not happening quite yet. It is going to take a little bit of time to that process to start rolling until it's all back together again. It will take some time. Another good friend of mine owns some accommodation over there, and for the last, 12 months or so, he's been down to like 20% occupancy rate. But he's already getting a lot of inquiries. It's like an Airbnb thing. But he's getting a lot of inquiries already where, 2 months ago he had nothing. But at the moment, it's starting to get inquiries. In fact, he had that thing up for sale and he couldn't sell it. He was selling it for half the price he thought it was worth. No one would buy it. But now he's going to hold on to it because he can see the change. The restaurant thing down the bottom of it too. But anyway, so that's also promising. What else? Well, I think that's about it. Please keep your questions coming through. Keep them clean, please, if you don't mind. And hopefully we'll have some 100% news, documented news, come across my desk soon. Thanks very much. Just on another quick one, Harry, my agent that I've been using for many, many years, I've been mentioning on my show, has been getting lots and lots of inquiries from you guys, and he likes to say thank you very much. Keep that information, keep your questions coming through. I'll leave his WhatsApp number down below and also his contact details. But if you do want some questions asked on agency, visa, questions, he's certainly willing to help you out. And he's a great man, our Harry, very knowledgeable. So please, any questions at all on visas, have a talk to Harry. He'll be happy to answer any of your questions.